Imagine this. You get promoted. Not a lateral move, a real one. A title change, a new set of responsibilities, and a salary increase that feels meaningful. The kind that makes you sit with it for a moment before you tell anyone. For a day or two, the number just exists. Clean, full of possibility. You find yourself doing quiet mental math. What this changes, what it makes possible, how different things might look from here. Then, gradually, the math shifts. The apartment you've been in for 3 years starts to feel a little small for someone at your level now. The car has more miles than you'd like. Your wardrobe hasn't kept up with where your career has gone. There's a part of town you've always thought you'd live in eventually, and eventually is starting to feel like now. None of this feels like a decision, exactly. It feels like recognition, like the life is simply catching up to where you've arrived. And so it begins, quietly, reasonably, one upgrade at a time, until the new salary, so full of possibility 2 months ago, is fully accounted for, and the financial margin feels exactly like it did before the promotion.
There is a pattern in American professional life so consistent it is almost invisible. Career advancement, income rises, and lifestyle rises to meet it. Not after deliberation, not through conscious choice, but through a process that feels less like deciding and more like arriving somewhere that was always waiting. It happens at every income level. It happens to people who are financially aware, who understand the concept of lifestyle inflation, who have told themselves they won't let it happen to them. And it happens anyway. Because the mechanism driving it is not ignorance. It is not carelessness. It is something more fundamental. A set of deeply embedded associations between professional status, personal identity, and the material conditions that are supposed to reflect both.
Here is what makes this genuinely difficult to see from the inside. Every individual upgrade that follows a promotion is defensible. Independently, each one makes complete sense. You've earned more, the better apartment is within budget, you spend significant time in your car, reliability and comfort aren't frivolous. Your professional environment has changed, and your presentation needs to reflect that. You've been putting off these things for years. You deserve to enjoy the progress you've made. Every one of these statements can be true simultaneously. And every one of them, while true, participates in a process that quietly converts career advancement into financial stasis. Because the upgrades don't happen one at a time, considered individually against a clear financial framework. They happen in a cluster, in the weeks and months following the promotion, when the psychological permission to expand is at its highest, when the sense of arrival is freshest, when the new income still feels like abundance rather than budget. And by the time the cluster settles, by the time the new apartment is signed, the car is decided, the wardrobe updated, the dining habits adjusted upward, the new income has been fully absorbed into a new baseline. A baseline that, going forward, feels like the minimum, not the upgrade.
There is a quiet psychological mechanism that operates at the intersection of career progress and financial behavior. It works like this. Human beings are deeply sensitive to reference points, to the social and environmental signals that define what is normal, appropriate, and expected for someone in a particular position. When a person's professional position changes, when a title changes, when a peer group shifts, when the organizational level moves up, the reference points shift with it. The colleagues at the new level live differently. The expectations of the role carry implicit signals about presentation, environment, and participation. The social world of the new position has its own baseline, where people live, what they drive, where they eat, how they present themselves. And the pressure to align with that baseline is not experienced as external pressure. It is experienced as internal recognition, as knowing what is appropriate now, as understanding without being told what this level of success is supposed to look like. This is not vanity. It is a deeply human response to changed social context. The problem is that professional reference points and financial reference points move in opposite directions when career advances. Professional advancement moves a person into a peer group with higher spending norms. Financial advancement, the actual building of net worth, of lasting wealth, of the gap between income and expense.
The standard advice for managing this pattern is familiar. When you get a raise, increase your savings rate before you touch anything else. Automate the difference. Live as if the raise didn't happen. Let the income grow before the lifestyle follows. This advice is structurally sound. In a world where the only variable is financial logic, it would work reliably. But it doesn't account for what a promotion actually is and what it does to the person receiving it. A promotion is not just a financial event. It is a psychological one, a social one. It comes loaded with meaning about identity, arrival, and belonging.
There is a longer arc to this pattern that deserves attention. Think about a career that spans 30 years. A person who enters the workforce at 23 and retires at 53, earning promotions and salary increases at roughly regular intervals. Each promotion brings a meaningful income increase. Each increase is followed, within months, by a meaningful lifestyle expansion. The gap between income and expense resets near zero. The financial margin stays thin throughout. At the end of 30 years, the income is substantially higher than it was at the beginning. The lifestyle is substantially more expensive. And the accumulated wealth, the actual financial position built across 3 decades of professional advancement, is, in many cases, far smaller than the income history would suggest it should be. Not because nothing was saved, but because every time the raw material of wealth building increased, the cost of the life increased alongside it. This is not a failure of effort. It is not a failure of earning.
Here is the reframe that matters. Most people, when they receive a promotion, ask, "What does this make possible?" That question is natural, and it is not wrong. But it almost always gets answered in the direction of expansion, of what the new income unlocks, of what the new level of success is supposed to look like from the outside. The more revealing question, the one that almost never gets asked in the days following a promotion, is this: what am I actually choosing to do with the distance this creates? Because a promotion creates distance between income and the current cost of life. A gap, a moment of financial possibility that exists, briefly and genuinely, before the lifestyle expands to close it. That gap is the raw material of financial change. And what a person does with it, whether they protect it, even partially, or allow it to be absorbed automatically into an upgraded life, is one of the most consequential financial decisions they will make. Not because of what it does to this month's balance, because of what it does to the trajectory. A gap protected, even partially, at each promotion.
When the promotion consumption reflex becomes visible, when it can be named and recognized rather than simply experienced, something useful tends to shift. Not necessarily the behavior, not immediately, but the awareness that a choice exists where a reflex used to run. That a promotion creates a moment, a brief, genuine moment of financial possibility, and that what happens in that moment is not predetermined, not inevitable, not simply the natural result of career progress. It is a decision, usually made by default, but a decision nonetheless. And decisions made by default can, once recognized, be made differently. Not completely differently, not through the suppression of every natural impulse toward alignment and reward, but deliberately, with some portion of the gap protected before the expansion begins, with some conscious allocation of the new income towards something that builds rather than something that simply costs more to maintain. The upgrade doesn't have to disappear. The reflex just needs to be interrupted long enough for a question to be asked. What am I actually choosing here? And what does this choice do to the trajectory? Those questions, asked at each career inflection point, change the answer to what a working life produces. Not dramatically, perhaps, in any single moment, but across the full arc of a career, across every promotion, every raise,
Every moment when new income arrives and the reflex reaches for an upgrade, the difference accumulates into something significant. Quietly, without drama, the way most things that actually last tend to be built.
A promotion is a real thing. The recognition it represents is real. The satisfaction of it is real. The sense of arrival it produces deserves to exist without apology. This is not a video that argues against enjoying what you've earned. It is a video that asks a quieter question. When the promotion arrives and the reflex fires and the upgrades begin to feel not like choices but like the natural shape of the new life, is that reflex happening consciously? Or is it just happening? Because there is a difference between choosing to upgrade your life after a promotion and simply upgrading it because that is what the promotion seemed to require. One is authorship. The other is a pattern running on its own. And patterns, once named, can be interrupted. Not always, not completely, but enough. At the right moments, in the highest leverage places,